right, so now we are doing Ready Math, Unit 2, Lesson 10, and this is our last day. So I'm going to need you to get your lesson book, page 90 and 91. You're going to need your notebook and a pencil. So yesterday we talked about here's graphs and we're matching situations. Today we're going to graph the situations. So we're going to be in control of what our graph looks like based on our scenario. So this is going to be exciting. This is fun. I love this part. Okay, so let's look at our situation. Get your notebook ready and your pencil ready. Angela and Laurie are hiking up a mountain. The beginning of the trail is not too steep, and they start off at a quick pace. They stop and rest for several minutes, then climb to a steeper part of the trail at a slower pace until they reach the highest point of the trail. They rest again before climbing down at a constant rate, faster than they climbed the mountain. Then I have something blanked out. I'm going to read it again. And I want you to think about each sentence as I'm reading. You might want to draw a picture. You might want to figure out what these words mean. And so I want you to write down, even if you start numbering and labeling or lettering your sentences. But think about what each sentence means, because remember, today we might be graphing situations, right? Okay. Angela and Laurie are hiking a mountain. The beginning of the trail is not too steep, and they start out at a quick pace. They stop and rest for several minutes, then climb a steeper part of the trail at a slower pace until they reach the highest point of the trail. They rest again before climbing down at a constant rate, faster than they climbed the mountain. Now, yesterday when we looked at we were looking at lesson 10. Do you remember how each part was labeled? So what I'm going to tell you is I want you to think about the different parts that we might be looking at for our graph. Okay? Try to pull out, well, obviously what's important, okay? But I want to know what are the number of parts I'm going to need. Okay? Pause my video, please. 3, 2, 1. So the hardest part is to try to figure out how many parts we're going to have, because ultimately what we're going to be doing is we're going to be sketching a graph. So without sketching a graph, notice I didn't tell you to sketch a graph. I told you to think about what it would look like. But let's talk about the parts of this graph before we graph it. Angela and Laurie are hiking up a mountain. Okay, good to know, but I'm not going to use it in my drawing. The beginning of the trail is not too steep, and they start out at a quick pace. Ooh, okay. Think about slope and a quick pace. Okay, so that'd be one part of my graph, a quick pace. Look at the third sentence. They stopped and rest for several minutes. Stop right there. Guess what that is? That might be part 2. We stopped and rested. Then this part says, then climb a steeper part of the trail at a slower pace until we reach the highest point. Ooh, okay. So once I get to the highest point, what are we going to do again? They're going to rest. And then they're going to climb down at a constant rate, faster than they climbed up the mountain. How many parts of this graph are we going to have? 5. 5 parts, okay? So my second part, see, we're going to sketch it. Okay, so I'm going to go to my next slide, and I'm going to help you out just a little bit. Move you way up here, okay? And now I have distance and time. So again, we're starting out at a quick pace. We stop and rest for several minutes till they reach let's see. Then we climb a steeper part. And then we rest again. There we go. And we climb down faster. Okay, pause my video and try to draw this. And then we're going to match yours and mine, okay? Pause my video. 3, 2, 1. Did you graph? Let's see if your video matches, if your graph matches mine. Okay, let's see how we did. So part A, or number 1, I'm starting out pretty quickly. And what I need you to understand, first of all, is some of you have probably never gone hiking before. And it's funny because when I used to teach this problem, I had never been hiking before. So the graph really didn't relate to me any, because I assumed, and a lot of my students do this that haven't been hiking, you go up and over the mountain. And I'm thinking, like, how are they going to get back to their car? So my very first time hiking, I realized you hike up a trail, you see what you want to see, and then you actually hike back down the way you came. And it makes me look silly, but you know what? If you've never done it before, I mean, you just assume you go up the mountain and then down the mountain. It makes sense to me, right? So I want you to understand that when you're looking at this graph in front of you, that this is not what the mountain looks like at all. It's your speed and your distance from the starting point. So here, my slope has to do with how fast I'm going. Even though we're not talking miles per hour, we're talking distance from the starting point. But I mean, let's be honest, it is miles per hour, okay? Because we're going away and we're coming back. So I'm starting off, I've got a lot of energy, and we straight up said that, hey, it's not too steep. We're starting off at a quick pace. So that's why, boom, he's kind of quick. Then we paused and rested. Then the trail got hard. And usually it does at the top, and you're tired. And so we had to go slower. Then we stopped at the top just as it was beautiful. We're looking at the beautiful scenery, and you'd be surprised that when you're walking back down, how much easier it is to walk down a mountain than up a mountain. And you're practically running down that mountain. And that's why E has to be steeper. My slope is steep because faster than you climbed up the mountain. So it has to be. Now, in my picture, it almost looks like we're going straight down, but we're not, because that wouldn't be a function. So if yours is kind of like this, as long as it's faster than A. Okay, so how did y'all do? Did y'all do good? Right? Are y'all finding this a little easy? Because there's no numbers and we kind of have a little freedom, right? Yeah, that's always exciting. Okay. So if you notice, this is part of analyzing what we did. So the beginning of the trail has a quick pace. That means it's going to be steep. Before climbing, we're at rest. That's why we did a horizontal straight line. At C, we went slower, so it was not as steep as part A. Then we rested again, so there's my horizontal slant. And then finally E, we're climbing down at a quicker rate, so that's going to make the steep downward segment back down to the starting point. So if you followed me with your notes in your notebook, in your lesson book, that's how this all pans out. Okay, so now we're going to try another one. So and we're going to break this one down, and the next one you're going to do all by yourself. Miss Elijah does errands on her lunch break. So she starts walking quickly, but then has to slow down at the sidewalk as it gets crowded. She stops at a store and picks up a few items. She walks quickly back to the office since there is no longer a crowd. Okay, so we're going to break this one slowly. Okay, so, let's try, okay. So we're going to describe each segment, but when we get to yours by yourself, one of the things I want you to think about is how many segments does this have? But we're going to go through this one really slowly, so that way we can break down each segment together. Okay, so Miss Eliza does errands on her lunch break. Am I going to graph that? No. But I know that I'm going to have to leave from my work, right? Because I'm on work, so I'm going to be at work. Okay, so let's look at part 1. She starts walking quickly. Let's stop there. Part 1, she starts walking quickly. What is that going to look like? Is that going to be a steep slope, or is that going to be a low slope, not steep. Yeah, good. So that one's going to be steep. Okay, because it's quickly, right? Good. Okay, that's a cue. So what's my second? Oh, it says what slope of the graph should the second one look like? So look at the next segment. I'm going to change colors. But then has to slow down because it gets crowded. So what's my slope going to do? Is it going to change or be the same? Yeah, it's going to change. It can't be the same because, and you can think about the hallway in the school. The bell rings, and so if you head out at the beginning, you're going to be like kid-free roaming the halls, but then everyone starts to come out, it's going to bottle down and it's going to slow down, right? So this one's going to be not as steep, not as steep. Okay. Let me spread. Not as steep as B. Okay. So let's look at the third part. The third part, let's see, she stops. Ooh, let's change colors. She stops at a store. Oh, let's see, 1, 2, this is 3. Okay. She stops at a store. What am I going to do when she stops? So this one will be a horizontal line. Good, because I'm stopping. And finally, let's see the last segment. She walks quickly back to the office. Okay, so is that one going to look exactly like number 1? Probably, huh? So this will be a steep one. Okay, so let's look at this together and let's see how it'll look. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get our graph in. Here's my distance and here's my time. So let's do this one together. So the first part, we're walking fast. So it's pretty steep. Boop. Then she has to slow down a little bit because it's crowded. So guess what this one's going to look like? Not as steep, but we're still going away from the office. Next part, she stops. So this one's straight across. We had to stop and shop. Maybe we shop a long time, right? Okay. And then I got to walk back to the office. So, and it's going to look exactly like that one. It'll be steep. Okay, so let's see how you can do without me this time. So at the bottom of your booklet, okay, you'll notice this one. Pablo starts walking to the park. Halfway to the park, he starts jogging. When he gets to the park, he stops to rest. Finally, Pablo walks home at the same pace as the first part of his trip. Sketch a graph that shows Pablo's distance from home compared to time. What's very important for this is I want you to label the parts of this story. How many parts of your graph are you going to need? Okay, pause my video, label your story, and graph it. Pause. 3, 2, 1. Let's see how you did. Pablo starts walking to the park. So he starts walking. Okay. Halfway to the park, he starts jogging. Okay. When he gets to the park, he stops to rest. Finally, Pablo walks home at the same pace as the first part of the trip. This is 4, but it's going to look exactly like 1. Let's see how you did. He starts walking. Halfway. So let's see. Where's our halfway? Maybe here? No, because he's going to pause, so it's not time, right? Okay. So let's do halfway, like right. Whoops. Come on. Oh, you don't want to go back. Oh, hold on. Move together. There we go. Okay. So, whoops. Ah, there we go. Okay. Okay, so halfway, he starts to jog. That means this is going to be steeper. Then he gets there and he rests. And then we're going to walk home. Ta-da! How did yours look? Even though my horizontal line isn't so horizontal, but all right, good job, guys. So this feels a lot easier, doesn't it? because we're drawing pictures with stories. Well, y'all are doing a great job. So keep it up. And you know what? Y'all finished Unit 2. How exciting. So I will see you starting at Unit 3, okay? See you later, guys. Bye.